The sky is often a mysterious place. We would like to take this opportunity to welcome you to our YouTube channel, where we will be counting down our choices for the top 5 most interesting mysteries in the field of aviation. These are the mysterious aviation stories that stunned the globe either as a result of the mysterious circumstances surrounding the incidents themselves or as a result of the unknown outcomes for the individuals or planes involved. To be quite clear, we are adding the mysteries that are the most interesting and shocking, regardless of whether or not they have been solved in the years that have passed since the incidents. Before we start, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Number 5. Flight 739 of the Flying Tigers. In the middle of March in 1962, during the early phases of the Vietnam War, the United States Army Flying Tiger Flight 739 vanished over the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean while it was en route from Guam to the Philippines. The Mariana Trench is an apparently bottomless chasm in the middle of the ocean. A standard oil tanker that was in the region when the jet's final message was sent out reported seeing a bright explosion in the sky almost an hour after the plane's transmission. Some investigators believe that this explosion may have been caused by the plane. Because no emergency calls were received by any of the air traffic control centers, it is difficult to pinpoint the precise moment when things began to go wrong for those who were on board. After an intensive search team which included 1,300 people, 48 aircraft, and 8 surface vessels, and which collectively covered over 144 square miles, came up empty, speculations began to spread like wildfire throughout the United States regarding what had taken place. These ideas range from the accusation that it was shot down by mistake by the United States government, who subsequently concealed their tracks, to the theory that it simply crashed due to engine and communication failure. However, the actual cause is still unknown, and it is possible that no one will ever fully comprehend what took place. Number 4. Flight 19, which landed in the Bermuda Triangle. At the beginning of December 1945, not one but 6 planes vanished, and they have not been found to this day. This event is maybe the one that has been the subject of the most debate on an aircraft disappearance. It was on that day that 5 Avenger torpedo bombers, which are well known in the aviation community for their enormous size, took out from their base in Eft, Lauderdale, Florida, for bombing practice in what has subsequently become known as the Bermuda Triangle. The weather conditions on that day were described as being average. The 5 planes were unable to maintain communication with the ground station because they were having issues with their compasses, which is something that is known to occur in that region as well as in the Chinese Sea. However, the ground station was still able to track the communications between the pilots of the planes. During these communications, it was noted that the pilots got disoriented as to their whereabouts, and they decided that after the first jet went below 10 gallons of fuel, all of the planes were to ditch into the ocean. The Coast Guard and the Navy promptly began an extensive search and rescue operation that lasted for 5 days and covered a total area of 700 square kilometers. During this time, another plane carrying 13 passengers vanished without a trace and was never located again. The only piece of information that could shed light on what had happened was a report made by an ocean liner that claimed to have witnessed a huge fireball in the sky while it was in the area where the plane was thought to have been at the time. In spite of this, as of the time of this publication, no trace of the 6 missing planes or the passengers on board has been located, which has led to the perpetuation of the aura of mystery that surrounds the fabled Bermuda Triangle. Number 3. Glenn Miller. By the middle of December in 1944, Glenn Miller had already established his legacy as both one of the most influential big band leaders of all time and a genuine pioneer in the development of the swing musical genre. However, after the jet he was on disappeared without a trace after departure, his reputation developed to the point where he was considered an American folk hero. The official assessment of the missing plane concluded that the plane must have crashed into the English Channel as a result of iced-over wings or engine problems because it left London on a chilly and foggy day, and there were no other evident conclusions that could be formed regarding the disappearance of the plane. The plane was en route to Paris from London. However, that unclear verdict was not successful in calming down the devastated citizenry, which had recently suffered the loss of one of the most important morale boosters for the Allied powers. It was only natural that rumors spread about what had actually taken place. There have been numerous hypotheses put forward, none of which have been verified to a level of satisfaction. These hypotheses range from the famous musician landing covertly, only to pass away from cancer a few days later in a hospital, to the plane being accidentally bombed by friendly fire from English planes that were releasing bombs that were initially intended for a mission that was canceled. The one piece of information that can be stated with absolute confidence is that the plane took off on its relatively brief journey on December 15, but was never seen again at its destination. Number 2. Santiago Flight 513 mysteriously landed 35 years later with a cockpit and passenger cabin full of skeletons. Flight 513 of Santiago Airlines, bound for Porto Alegre, Brazil, departed Aachen, West Germany, on September 4, 1954. Around 18 hours should have passed during the flight. It actually took 35 years. Santiago Flight 513 was seen circling the Porto Alegre airport on October 12, 1989, without any communication with air traffic authorities, and it eventually made a successful landing. Even more shockingly, when the doors were opened, the investigators discovered 92 people's skeletons strapped into their seats. Captain Miguel Victor Curie's skeletal remains were discovered in the cockpit with his hands on the controls and the engine still running. If this narrative seems a little familiar, it might be because it is remarkably similar to the Twilight Zone episode, The Odyssey of Flight 33 from 1961. Perhaps it's due to the fact that you used to read the tabloid Weekly World News. An article about Pan Am Flight 914, which purportedly went lost for 37 years before turning up and landing safely, appeared in a newspaper infamous for fabricating absurd tales in 1985. Even though the Pan Am Flight 914 narrative is definitely fictitious, readers must have enjoyed it. The tabloid returned to the subject of physics-defying aircraft in 1989. The crew and passengers on this fictitious airplane, which was known as Santiago Airplane 513, didn't fare nearly as well. The passengers aboard Pan Am Flight 914 all made it out alive. When Santiago Flight 513 touched down, the aircraft was loaded with skeletons. Number 1. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, commonly known as the MH370 incident, occurred on March 8, 2014 during a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Search efforts were conducted from the Indian Ocean west of Australia to Central Asia in response to the disappearance of the Boeing 777, which had 227 passengers and 12 staff members on board. Flight 370's disappearance is so puzzling that it has become one of the most well-known missing airplanes in history. Theories about what happened to aircraft 370 in the weeks after it vanished covered everything from technical failure to pilot suicide. Although continuous rumors of a hijacking arose as a result of the loss of the ACARS and transponder signals, no one or organization claimed credit. It also appeared doubtful that hijackers would have flown the aircraft to the southern Indian Ocean. No suspicious activity was discovered in the behavior of the captain, first officer, or cabin crew before to the flight, but the likelihood that the signals had been turned off from within the aircraft suggested that one of the crew members had committed suicide, a possibility that Malaysian officials have not yet ruled out. Some people believe that Flight 370 was shot down when the debris was found. However, no projectile shrapnel or other proof of this has been uncovered. This is it for today's video. Must subscribe to our channel before leaving. Thanks for watching.